Alright, so final chapter, compositing. So here we are going to bring all of our nice little renders that we made, and we're going to bring them into compositing, and we're going to make them look all nice. So for this compositing chapter, I've rendered out small sequences of every shot that we made. I'm not going to be working on the entire sequence, mainly because, of course, I've already made this entire sequence, and it just didn't make sense to keep rendering everything to just render all of the shots again. Particularly also because every time when you render, you're gonna sometimes run into small issues that you need to change. So I've just rendered small sequences here that we're going to be using for compositing. We're going to just go over sort of the basic compositing stuff there, but we're not going to do the entire full sequence. You can do that with your own. With your own scene that you've made, but you can follow along with the small image sequences that are included with the download. In the download, I've only included a couple of frames because the frames EXRs get generally pretty heavy, so I didn't want to include dozens of gigabytes of EXR frames. So the downloads will be a couple of frames, enough for you to follow along if you didn't make your own renders. If you did make your own renders, just use those. So we're going to be compositing inside of Fusion, and before we get started, make sure that you know how Fusion works, or check out my Compositing for 3D Artists, which is a free compositing course I put on YouTube. So you can find it if you go to my youtube.com/Tim van Helsdingen. You can find the playlist there called Compositing for 3D Artists, or you can go to my website timvanhelsdingen.com/compositing-4-3D-artist. Then you also come over here, and then you can watch it there. So I'm gonna skip over all of the basics and all of the fundamental stuff during this compositing chapter, because this course has already gotten quite long, and I've already discussed all of those basics in the previous Sassy Snacks and already in this thing. So make sure to check this out if you're new to Fusion, new to compositing. Watch this stuff first, because I'm not gonna introduce you all of the basics. I'm gonna assume that you know all of that. Similar to how I assumed you knew the basics of Houdini when we got started there. So without further ado, let's just save out our file here. I'm just gonna make in our base folder, I'm gonna go to Comp, Fusion, Shot0, make a Shot010 folder and just save it out as Sassy Snacks Shot010. And we're gonna go to File, Preferences, we're gonna go to Paths, and we're gonna set a bunch of paths here. We're going to set up the same paths that we had before. We're going to put them to our project path. So let me just navigate to my project path here. So I'm going to paste it over there. So then we can use $root to refer to our project path. And then we're going to use $job to refer to where our compositing file is. So that's going to be this folder over here. And then we're going to put that in there. And then we just have easy variables to refer to our project. So let's put the frame range from 1000 to 1100. Let's drag this out. And let's bring in our render. So we can go to $root, render, 3D, shot 10, main, 1. And there we go. So let's view that. Go through it. All right, there we go. You can see the colors here look all messed up. So that's what you should already understand if you watch this compositing course. And it is also what in the beginning of the course where I told you how to set up your open color IO. Well, that's what we're also going to enable here. So we're going to go down this thing to open OCIO color space view lot. I'm going to go to edit, ACES CG, and then output Rec 709. And there you go. Looks the same as he did back in Houdini. I'm going to put it in here. Open color IO, edit, ACES CG, output Rec 709. There we go. And then we're all good to go. So with that set up, just our basic stuff here. By the way, one more thing that we need to do. File, Preferences, go to Frame Format. Let's put this to 16-bit float. So then, I don't know why 8-bit is the default, because you generally always working with float values here. So that makes more sense. Frame rate 30 and 1920 by 1080 seems fine. Let's save it out. So that is all set up. So now let me show you the difference between multi-layer and multi-part EXR. I discussed that in the previous video where I told you how you could set up multi-part inside of Karma. But let me actually show you what is up when you actually bring this inside of your composite. So let me bring in one of my original renders, which is this one. See, it looks actually like our new one a lot better, like how it's looking here. So like this was my original one. The droplets here I think look a little bit nicer. I also noticed there's a little bit of an issue with the droplets that I rendered here. Again, this is normally, if you would discover something like this, you would go back in your scene and re-render and then fix all of that stuff. But again, I'm not gonna do all of that. I'm just gonna walk you through the compositing process, and you can just use your own sequence or whatever is here. It's mainly just educational because you already know what the final result is going to look like because you already saw the demo video. So that's type of stuff you might run into after your first render. And then, like for example, a lot of my shots literally ran up to version 5, 6, 7, 8. Like I've done dozens of renders for a lot of the shots. But in terms of overall look, I actually like the new one better. Aside from that, it's pretty similar. But anyway, the difference between multi-layer and multi-part. So of course with these multi-layer ones, let's select them, and then if we go to format channels, you can see here we have a bunch of channels. So you're familiar with these things. These are the channels, and you can put them in color, and then you have your channel put in the well, as an RGB value. However, multi-part is this other thing, which again I told you to turn off, which is this thing. If we go to format here, you can see there's not really any channels. What there are parts. So this is what I meant by it's sort of a zip file with images in there. So imagine your EXR is a zip file, and then they're in there. There's a whole bunch of these things, which are just files with the images in them. And then this is actually very useful. However, there's a problem here. So if we select our crypto mat here, let's say I use crypto mat and I try to use this, you can see it errors. It doesn't work. Also, I'm little confused also why Karma just exports a bunch of different crypto mats. But you can see none of them really work. Like I don't know why there's multiple crypto objects in here. I guess it maybe has something to do with USD. But no matter what you do, the plugin, this CryptoMat plugin, just doesn't support multi-part. And again, you can install that stuff over here with CryptoMat. So this is a reactor, and again, you can install a whole bunch of plugins. Again, we are also going to use Split EXR here and a bunch of other ones. These are all discussed in Compositing for 3D Artists. Anyway, this is the main reason why I told you to use multi-layer, because if we use multi-layer and then use our trusty script, House of Secrets Split EXR, if we use that, you can see it splits out. By the way, that split doesn't work on multi-part. You can try it, but it will fail. Whoop, you can see it doesn't really do anything, just splits out the one thing. But this one does definitely work, and it splits out a whole bunch of different things. And then we have to sort out which crypto object we need. So I guess it's going to be, it's that one. And if we use crypto mat on this one, where is it? Right, crypto mat, assign it, add mat, and there you go, we have our mat. So that's the main reason why I told you to not use multi-part and why we implemented that fix. Yeah, but with that out of the way, let's actually rebuild our beauty. Although in this scene, I don't actually think we need to rebuild our beauty, so we might actually just leave it out for this one, because actually this one looks really good by itself. But let's just try and see if we can get a better result if we just denoise this ourselves. All right, so let's have a look at our, so you can see the let's, by the way, delete all of these crypto objects. We're probably not gonna Or let's keep the main one. Let's delete all the other ones. I'm not going to use that one. So you can see the names from the passes in Karma are different than the stuff from Compositing for 3D Artists, which uses the Redshift passes. Again, each render engine might name this stuff a little bit differently. Here we have just our combined diffuse. And what I'm doing differently nowadays from Compositing for 3D Artists is that I was always using channel booleans, and then someone here said, why don't you use the merge? And I was like, yeah, it might actually make more sense to just use the merge and then use the burn-in. So that's what I have started doing since then. But it gets the same result. Anyway, so we need to find our, and it's a little bit difficult to read because of the UI skill here. Normally I'm using a 4K monitor with a little bit more space, but of course for the recording I need to increase my UI scale. So let's have a look at the transmission. That's a transmission. We need that one. Can just say put that into the merge. Then on the merge you can say burn in, and then we'll add it. Right. Let's find our other glossy reflections combination. I guess we need that one. All right. So those are going to be the specular stuff and the reflections. Can merge that in. All right. Now we are basically back to where we were. I don't think we had any subsurface scattering or stuff like that, so we don't necessarily need those. So here we have our noisy result. Let's try denoising this with Open Image Denoiser. And with this Open Image Denoiser, you can actually use the albedo. Let's find our albedo. We need a normal, and then we need albedo, and it names it albedo for some reason. Right, and then we're gonna put the normal here in the normal, and we want to put the albedo in the albedo. And then we're gonna highlight that, put on HDR, and then we should get a pretty decent denoise. There's multiple ways to denoise. In my original scene, I used multiple denoisers for different shots. So this is a free denoiser. There's also Neat Video, which is a paid denoiser. Noise, right? Reduce noise V5. So this is a paid denoiser. It's a temporal denoiser. So what it's actually really fast. And what it does, this one, it's a couple $100. I believe it was like 200. Anyway, you can prepare a noise profile. So we open it up. You say it's progressive. Select a thing, and you can say build profile, or you can say generic profile, depending on what you want to do. So build a profile, and you're going to press apply. Right, this gets a little bit too soft, so maybe we just want to do a generic profile. And you see this actually really looks pretty good. And again, in some scenarios, this just works better. Neat Video has really great results. But again, it's a paid denoiser. So just using Open Intel Denoiser also works well. And again, sometimes this one works better. Sometimes this one works better. It also depends on how you configure Neat Video. Right, I guess it's gonna error because it's disabled. But like depending on how you set it up, like you can customize all of these settings here. You have temporal and spatial settings. You can really go to town to try to denoise it. And for some of my shots, I mixed both. So depending on what you want to do, they can both be pretty great. But I do really recommend Neat Video. It's like if you composite it more often, then you already know that it's pretty great. But so this is essentially just here how you just rebuild your beauty and denoise it. And the good thing about denoising is that you could also denoise specific parts of your, so let's say, for example, maybe our albedo here, or our diffuse, I have to say, maybe that one requires less denoising than our other stuff. So I could denoise this and I could merge it in with this thing, and maybe this thing I can even denoise it with another denoiser. I could denoise this thing with Neat Video, so you can see, oh, that looks pretty good, and I could merge it in. Now I've done two different denoising settings on both of the albedo and on the other stuff. So I'm gonna remove it here from the file, but again, just keep it in mind that that's an option, and there's multiple ways to denoise this stuff. And this is also super useful too. Neat Video is also great for live action video and stuff like that. So let's just continue working maybe on our beauty, because it already looks pretty good. Like it's a little bit fuzzy here, but just because it's faster to work on, let's just continue working on that and just imagine that it's our own denoise thing. You could you could also save this one out to $job and then save it out as a proxy here as an EXR and then load it back in. Again, stuff like that's also something we did in the compositing for 3D artists pretty often. Let's add a little bit of depth of field. And again, I am going to use a plugin for this called Frischluft Depth of Field, because it's just the easiest and give the best results. So here's our depth map. I'm going to use a brightness contrast on this one. I'm going to say that I want to we want to check one thing on our depth here on the format on the channels. All right, so you can see it only puts depth in the blue, and I actually want to put it in all of the passes or all of the things here. So there you go. Then we can properly color correct it. So put a little bit more contrast in it. In this thing, let's do Frischluft depth of field. Then we're going to say auto range and depth invert. We're going to put it over there, increase the radius. And we have some nice looking depth of field, looking pretty good already. So that's looking quite nice. Let's already bring in some of our rain. Just try to comp it on, see what that does. Right, so I'm just going to bring it in. I wasn't completely happy with the look of my rain in the sequence yet, but we're just going to work with it. So we probably want to depth of field this separately. So let's do Frischluft depth of field. Extract the depth from that thing, and again, that one is multi-part. Yeah, because we matted out our plants, it's actually the depth is actually coming into the image. So actually, maybe instead of doing it like that, we could actually merge it in before we do the depth of field. And let's then use this one for the depth of field instead. And we can merge the rain itself just over here on the beauty. So let's just try that. There we go. And just burn it in a little bit. Let's color correct this thing a little bit. Something along those lines. Like I'm not, ignore the last couple of frames because I wasn't finished rendering those yet. So I'm not completely happy with the way the rain looks, but again, you just have to keep working on your own shot to try to make it the way you want it to look. Because like in my own original, you can see this is what it looked like in the original. So you can see here it's a little bit slower, but the technique is all pretty much the same. So this is what you could get out of the same techniques we have here. So here the rain is not particularly looking that great, but it's looking decent enough. You can see if we just add it in here. All right, so I'm not sure if I'm liking it to do the depth of field on this merge thing, if I'm looking at it like this, so maybe still disconnect it. Then do the depth of field. So let's undo all of that stuff. Let's have it grab the regular depth of field. So this is all, that was also why in shot 3 we rendered the depth of field in there, because it was giving similar weird sort of effect. Because it's of course not blurring the refraction. So that's of course something you might want. So let's merge. Let's merge this thing on there. Oh, not that one. Let's merge the beauty. Right, there we have the rain. And then what we can do is we can copy the depth of field and then Ctrl-Shift-V to create a reference from it. You can see this line. Put it in here. We can put our already depth of field in there. So now we're doing depth of field with the same focus, but now on the rain with a different input. All right, then we get something like that. And then we probably want to do the color correction again. Something along those lines. So this one doesn't necessarily have anything in the background. So for this thing, like I thought, like maybe we could add some sky in the background, but this is more of a like a thicker overgrowth than I had in my original here. So my original, I think I added a little bit of sky in the background. So for this one, I don't think we particularly need that. So let's add some more nice stuff to this. By the way, we probably need to actually make sure that our focus is actually correct. Maybe keyframe our focus distance a little bit, so we're actually gonna stay in focus. Here we go. Right, there we go. All right, for some reason it keeps jumping back. Right, there we go. Looking pretty nice. Right, so now we're going to use another plugin. This thing, optical flares for Blackmagic Fusion. It's quite cheap, but it's also quite nice. So it's similar to optical flares in After Effects, but then for Fusion. What we're going to do is we're going to make a black background here. We're going to make sure it's float 16, and we're going to use our optical flares plugin. And actually, it has a whole bunch of presets here, so let's just use a some kind of a preset that we like. We could build our own. Let's just maybe just build our own. So we just go add a sun, put it here on the side. Maybe a little bit, a couple of rays. Let's do a little bit of a ring. Maybe a bit. Not sure if I really like this thing. Let's only use the prism ring. Something like this. Maybe let's do it on float 32. Right, let's merge that thing on top. Burn it in. And then let's play a little bit more with it. Right, so you can see now we can add a little bit of a flare there. And we can get sort of this nice look there. Maybe you want to do some exponential glow on this thing. So that's another reactor plugin. X-glow. Might be nice to add glow to everything. Let's do 0.05. Let's do very small glow size. Actually not sure if I like it here. Let's remove it for now. One thing that I do want to add, which I also had in my original, there's a couple of these floater things floating around. those are actually that's actually stock footage. So they're actually from Video Copilot, so you can get them here. Free particle stock footage. It's 10 years old by now, and they're only 720p. You can download it here. They're actually MP4s, and Fusion doesn't like it if you try to load those in. So I have them here. Well, actually, it does work. But you can see I converted a bunch to MOVs. So I can try to put in a MP4, but like you can see I can load it in, but it just errors. So I've converted everything in Media Encoder to just be progress, and then I can actually load it in. So that's one of the things that I don't particularly like. Fusion is sometimes a little bit weird with these ones you want to load in. So maybe we can have a look at which ones do we like. Maybe let's have a look. Maybe this one is cool. So let's try Particles 2. Then we can actually color correct those particles a little bit. Do a little bit of the contrast thing. We need to put on the import and put them to depth float 16. Let's try to merge those on top. Need to resize this whole thing, of course, to 1920 by 1080, else it's not gonna look great. We're gonna use merge, and we're gonna just burn this in. And then we're just gonna play here with the gamma. Let's turn it down. And you can see we get some nice little floating parts there. And let's do a little bit of color correction. No, not that much contrast. Let's just add a little bit of contrast. Make it a little bit warmer, maybe. Or maybe a little bit cooler, because of course it's raining, so maybe we actually don't want it to be too warm. Or you could do the grading later in Premiere, but thinking I'm gonna change the flares here a little bit. Maybe color correct that over here. Reset this. Maybe even turn down the contrast. I don't want to spend too much time on this for the... anyway, you kind of get the idea. Change the color of the sun if you want. I think something like this is probably fine. Don't want to spend too much time. All right, let's say that we're happy with this thing. Then we could say we maybe want to actually add a little bit of grain. Do a little bit of film grain. It's of course way too much. So let's do the size. Very tiny. You could also just add this on top of your final sequence in the end, but just it adds a little bit of sort of nice detail. Do color grain. And after that, of course, if you want to export this to Premiere, because we've been editing in Premiere, you need to bake this back down to Rec 709 because Premiere doesn't work with ACES color space yet. For some reason unbeknownst to literally everybody in the world. So what you would do is OCIO color space. Then you would go with from ACCG to output rec 709. We can turn this off. And then I could save this out. And for Premiere, I probably would say that now I would prefer just to use this to use a ProRes. So if you were to do that, you would put it to, I guess, just call it MOV here. You call it shot 010 v01.mov. You would put that in. And you would go to export or to format, and you would put it to Apple ProRes 444. And then if you write that out with a render here, you could write your sequence out and then load it in Premiere, and then replace it in your edit, and then you're pretty much good to go. But again, like I'm not going to composite every full shot, but this is pretty much how this shot is composited. So let's go to the next one. All right, let's do the second shot. Let's just save this one out as shot 20 because we don't have to set up all of the other stuff again. Shot 20. We can throw away all of the things here. Let's just keep all of the other stuff up there. Maybe you can reuse some of it. Let's change our path. Path map. $job. Let's put it to shot 20. There we go. All right. Let's make a loader. $job. Or $root. Sorry. $root. Render. 3D. Shot 20. And then that's the one. All right. There we go. Sploosh. As you can see, it's only short sequence that I rendered. So let me put it to 1030. We can just loop it, so it's not the entire thing. It's just a partial thing. Let me enable my open color IO, but it looks pretty nice. I like the splash. It looks very splashy. Let's also load our rain, which is in the actually properly named folder. There's the rain. Let's actually press F2, call it rain. And let's move this entire thing up here in case we want to reuse something. Let's grab that one. Let's do script, split, EXR. There we go. We have our entire, or you know what? Maybe it might be easier if we just remove that thing. Let's just repurpose all of the stuff that we have here instead of doing it like that. All right. So let's go. Let's just change the renders here to be shot 20. There we go. That will save us a little bit of time. And then we don't have to rebuild our entire thing ourselves. And there we go. So you can see we got a nicely sort of denoised thing here. We can have a look if our already denoised thing actually looks any good. I think it does. So we might actually just use our already denoised one. You can see this one actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's just still a little bit splodgy here and there. Again, depending on the time, like if you have the time to render, of course you'd render with a lot more samples. But you can, like in this case, I think probably our own version here looks like our own denoised thing looks better. It preserves more of the details because this one splodges out a little bit. But I mean, we're still going to composite on this one here. All right, let's put in the depth map as well. Let's put this one to be the rain. And this one can be the regular shots. Alright. Alright. Let's merge all of this in. Let's remove the focal distance here. Let's have a look at our depth map. Alright. We should probably tweak the brightness and contrast here a little bit. Alright, so we have at least enough detail here. Right, it actually works pretty well. All right, so I probably want to animate the focus distance from being over here to then being over here. And then at the end be over here. For some reason this thing keeps resetting. All right. You need to go over there. All right. I think it's because I have a linked one. I think it keeps, for some reason, keeps resetting it to the other one. All right. All right. Can probably increase the depth of field quite a bit more. We could probably maybe just do it a little bit more like this. All right, let's do outer range again. Turn it down a little bit. And like in retrospect, maybe this shot would have worked better by rendering motion blur or depth of field into the shot. One thing that we do need here is, like you see, we have clear alpha there. So let's pick a nice background that we can put in the back here. So let's go back to our trusty flicker. Let's call it clouds. Let's put it to commercial use and modifications allowed. And this actually looks pretty nice here. Let's keep scrolling a little bit. Let's try cloud sunset, because I wanted to maybe feel slightly warm. Maybe this one here is nice. This one looks pretty cool. I'm gonna save that one out. Original. I'm gonna save it out to assets. Let's put it in textures. Let's call it cloud_1, something like that. Right, let's put in a loader. Put it to $root again, and then assets, textures, cloud1. There we go. All right, so we need to bring this into ACES color space. So first we're going to say depth float 16. We're going to say OpenIO color space transform. Select that thing. We're going to say from output sRGB, because it's an sRGB image, into ACES CG. So now we've put it into ACES CG, and you can see the colors are pretty much the same. Well, it's a little bit different there, so but that might also just be because, of course, this image is not really doing anything in ACES, or that because we're viewing this linearly, or maybe it's a Rec 709. All right, yeah. All right, so Rec 709 seems to actually be more accurate. So let's merge this into the background of this thing. So what I probably actually want to do is make it just a background image. Use backgrounds. Or you know what? Let's maybe make more sense to just crop this. Crop this to 1920 1080. And let's do a transform before it. Let's move it something like this. Then let's do a merge. And we're gonna merge our other thing on top. Let's move all of this stuff to the side. And you could probably enable snapping, by the way, if you wanna do grid. So if you wanna sort of organize this by nicely snapping into the grid. I haven't done that yet here, but that's something you could do. All right, so merging it in here, and then we can merge that one into the depth of field. And you can see, and we get it here, sort of nicely in the back. All right, so we're having some issues there with the depth. So it's because here our depth also has alpha here. So that's why the depth here is not blurring nicely. So you could either disable the alpha. What I generally like to do is I like to grab a background object, put it to float 32, and let's color pick one of our things in the background. So something like that. And then let's make it, it seems to already be quite bright. It's annoying that we're still getting sort of more RGB type values, but we can just color correct it later. All right, let's merge our depth on top of that thing. All right, so we see we do get some aliasing issues there with the alpha, which might give some problems, but let's just try to see how it works already. Right. This already seems to work, actually. I don't think these aliasing issues are gonna be an issue. But you could use erode, dilate, and just try to sort of put this to Gaussian and sort of just blur it in a little bit and then fade those out, make it a little bit sharper. There's other ways to deal with it as well, but all right, something along those lines. I probably wanna still change some things here because I want to boost the contrast a little bit. I want to make some of this stuff a little bit more extreme. Right, let's not do that. Let's change the white point. All right, something like that. Let's reduce the maximum amount of blur. All right, so this one might be sort of profit from some glow down the line. Let's just first try to see what we can do with our rain here. So we have rain doesn't seem to load properly. Right, let's just load our rain manually then. So let's just bring it in here. Right, let's delete that one. Put that one in there. Right. Merge that on top. So you can see you get some nice depth here. So actually it looks kind of nice how it's falling right in front of it. The focus there should be I'm just trying to properly put the focus here. Right, something along those lines. So looks pretty nice. Let's walk through the rest of our stuff. So we had some optical flares set here. Guess more over there. We had a little bit of orange warmer lights. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Again, I'm just going really fast here, but just to sort of give you a rough idea of stuff that you can do with this stuff in compositing. You can turn down the blend here. But again, for all your own stuff, work on it however long you want. And really polish this up to be your most amazing work yet. Right? I'm gonna reset this color correct here because I do like slightly less contrast, or a little bit of blue. Right, something like that looks pretty cool. I'm liking it. Maybe in this case, want to do some of that exponential glow stuff that we were talking about earlier. Let's do it before the color correct. Let's do very small glow size. All right, what I think I might want to do with that exponential glow is I have the background. Maybe I just want to glow the background. So let's do a background object. Let's make it white. Let's do booleans, general booleans. Let's put our main render in the mask, and we multiply by mask. And need to actually put the right thing into multiply by mask, right? Alpha, multiply by mask, apply mask inverted, then we get those parts, then we can do erode and dilate. We can dilate those out with a Gaussian blur, so we make them a little bit soft. Make them even softer with an actual regular blur. All right, then we can go exponential glow. You can do that probably. We should probably do that after we do the depth of field. Put it in effect mask. Put it to settings. Put it to luminance, and then here we can do a tiny bit of glow. Right, so you can see them again, sort of a little bit of control over make the back here a little bit glowy. Right, maybe increase the contrast here a little bit. Like you're probably gonna need to put this in the edit at some point and then see how well the grading works. So that's why a lot of the grading you're gonna also do after the whole thing. But anyway, this seems to look pretty nice. I like it. Vibe is a little bit different than I had before, but I mean the overall image looks pretty nice. Actually, I think I'm actually liking maybe this even better than what I had in my original. So again, you would put it to shot 020 v001, and then you would render it out, and then you'd have a nice sequence. But again, just going through all of this stuff very quickly. Let's just play. Let's just see what it looks like. But yeah, this is basically very simple composite. But you can see that we really add a lot by just doing just a very rudimentary composite based on our render. So now you also don't see that you don't necessarily always need to do everything in 3D. You can actually make a very nice image in compositing. So you can see this looks really nice with the rain. So pretty cool. All right, let's move on to the next shot. All right, so let's do the next one. Shot 30 is going to be really fast because we really don't need to do a lot there. Let's do shot 30. Let's just save this out. All right, there we go. All right, let's load it in. So let's do loader, $root, render, 3D, shot 30. And there we go. Let's have a look at it. Sploosh. Sploosh. All right. Looking pretty good. So in this one, we actually rendered the depth of field into it. And for this one, to be honest, we don't really need to do that much. We mainly need to load in some kind of a background. So let's have a look where do we put our background. We had the image loaded here somewhere. Image, where are you? Where are you? All right, there you are. So let's maybe just try to see if that one works well with our new render. And should probably include the crop as well. Right, crop it out. There we go. Let's put a merge. Let's just merge this on top. All right, so this is maybe not really what we want. So let's resize the background. And again, like maybe you'd need a different background for this, but let's just try it with this one first. Let's do, I'm gonna use first lift out of focus to sort of give it a nice focus blur, sort of match the out of focus effect with what you already have. Right, something along those lines. All right, so this doesn't really seem to fit yet in terms of because this is refracting more of a greenish color. So maybe I'm thinking that maybe this is not the best background to put there. So maybe let's actually just get our Vondelpark HDRI. So the one, let's just try putting that one in. Let's put it into Aces color space. We're gonna need to put it from utility linear sRGB to, so this is because it's a linear image, so into ICG and I actually think outputs sRGB was giving me a more accurate representation. All right, utility, let's do oh wait, shouldn't you actually not change the output one? All right, I think that's actually probably more accurate. I mean, the gamma is not correct. You know what, let's just try this. Let's see what it does. Let's put it into transform. Let's check our crop. Let's disable the focus for now. Let's just move this, size it up, move it a little bit like that, something like that. Right, let's enable out of focus again. Let's merge this in. All right, this is already looking a little bit better. I guess we can. Let's maybe do the transform after the depth of field, because then we don't have to constantly recalculate it. Yes. Something like, just something like that is fine. Do color correct after it. Let's maybe tint it like a little bit green. So color correct after this entire thing. Can increase the saturation a little bit maybe. Right, something like that. And let's remove all of the other stuff here that we didn't need. And like our denoise render here already looks pretty good. So again, you could also just manually denoise this in compositing, but you can see it's still a little bit sploogey here. But again, I've already shown you all of the ways that you can get rid of the denoising or get rid of the noise in comp. So I'm not gonna Can't show that for every shot, else we're gonna be here for a while. Right, let's maybe add a little bit of flares on there. So let's just merge this in. We have these optical flares there. Let's merge those in. Let's see. Right, we had a light over here somewhere, so probably wanna put it more over there. Let's make it sun a little bit wider and something along those lines maybe. Let's increase the blend. Let's not do the particles. Let's add maybe a little bit of contrast, or maybe not. Make it a little bit warm. A little bit of grain. Looks fairly decent. Again, you'd probably just want to spend more time polishing this up however much you want, but this one is pretty simple. So let's just move on to the next one. Let's just put our output to correct folder, shot 30, and now let's do shot 40. All right, so let's just start with shot 40. So let's just save this out as being shot 40 in here. There we go. And let's just move this other one over to the side because we don't really need it. All right, let's bring in our renders. So let's have a look at my ice render. There we go. All right. And that's actually looking very clean already. So I actually don't think we need to do any denoising ourselves. Actually, the denoise render here looks pretty good. Unless maybe, you know what, maybe we actually do want, because maybe I want to change some stuff with the specular. I'm not sure if I'm liking the specular here. We can just have a go at trying to see what this is going to give us. Let's just split everything out. Let's just start merging some stuff in. So direct combined, direct indirect diffuse. What might be easier to just, like we did before, just copy that part, and let's just go to where we combine. All right, then we need to grab a node tree from another thing. So let's grab one from shot 20. Where we already have something set up. I mean, it's just easier to just reuse your things, especially with these names here being so, well, a lot of these things, and then it's just with the UI size here, it's just a little bit difficult to see what we're doing. So it's just easier to just grab an old node tree. I mean, that's why node-based compositing is nice, right? You can just reuse stuff. All right. There we go. And there we go. All right, let's have a look at it. All right, so you can see actually the noise in the base render is not even that bad. It was quite a long render, by the way. It definitely took quite a few hours to render this. I think I rendered a little bit longer sequence, so we should be able to. All right, there we go. So let's have a look at the individual stuff. Glossy. I think it's mostly the diffuse that I'm not super fond of. So we could go to merge here. We could try to. So the nice thing is here, if you do, if you combine all of these pulses yourself, you can really change the look yourself in compositing. Maybe I want the specular to be a little bit more intense. Let's do gain. actually not sure if this is, I'm liking it better or worse. I guess let's take a little bit of the, we can do that after it. It looks slightly nicer here, but maybe that's just because of some color correction. Let's just write that one out. We need to set our $job correctly, preferences, paths, and $job. Let's put it to shot 40. Then we can here do a saver. Do the $2 job. Let's call it beauty. And then just say 1. And then beauty.exr. So we can just write out that one. We need to make sure we disable all of the other things we did. So we can just write this sequence out and we can load it back in. And let's just see what that's gonna look like if the denoising is also gonna hold up. Alright, so saved it out. Let's make a loader. And let's load it back in. Alright, so now we have our freshly rendered beauty. If we combine it, if we have a look, it's not even that different. I do like the new one a little bit better. But yeah, let's call this OG for original. All right. All right, let's try some more. So let's add a little bit of the depth of field things that we have here. Because of course that's gonna probably look quite nice. So let's have a look at let's do the depth of field. So depth, let's do brightness contrast. Oh, yeah, we need to, again with this depth, it's a little bit annoying that on their channels, it always seems to only put the depth in the blue channel. I want the depth in every channel so I can easily color correct it. Wait, all right. All right, something like that. Let's do, we're probably, let's merge in a background here first. We want a sort of a nice background, and we still have our HDRI. So let's grab my HDRI. I'm just going to use that as a background. So that one. Let's crop that. And what we forgot, I think last time when we brought it in, we actually need to convert the colors in these things to ACES color space. I think, not sure if we did that last time, but let's just do it. So input is, I think, utility linear sRGB to ACES CG. Where are you? All right, there we go. So now we're here inside of ACES color space. All right. Now this should all be in ACES. Again, like with these, there's a whole bunch of these things here. You just have to get familiar with what you're doing. Normally, you can just use, for us sRGB images, you can just use the output as sRGB. But in case this is a linear image, so you need to use the utility linear to sRGB. And then cropping it out, and then let's do transform in between. Or we could grab some nice clouds somewhere, that might also work, but I mean, let's just try this first. Maybe actually some clouds might look cooler. Let's just look up for some clouds on Flick. So let's go look for clouds. Let's make it commercial use, modifications allowed. Clouds, snow. Let's see if we can find some kind of a snow landscape with some clouds in the back. All right, this looks actually pretty cool. This also looks nice. Or this one. This one's actually quite nice. Let's download the original. Let's just try that one. Oh, this one is quite small actually. It's let's try this other one. It doesn't have enough clouds above it. I want one that has like a nice cloud layer as well. Oh, so this one has quite a nice cloud layer here. Some rights reserved. Well, here's your credit, Martin Fish. Here you go. All right, this one is nice and big. Let's put it to our correct folder. Call it cloud 2, I guess. And let's drag it in here. Oh, yeah, we need to give it a different name. Now it's going to bring it in as a sequence. So I'm just going to call it Cloud Mountain. So just call it Cloud Mountain. All right, there we go. Open color IO, color space. Let's put it in, and then we're going to put it from output ACCG or output sRGB to ACCG, because again, this is not a linear image, it's an sRGB image. That's why we need it. All right, let's merge our thing on top. Oh, let's crop it actually. Crop. All right, so this is breaking. And it's probably, oh, because we, of course, in this image, we need to say depths. Let's make it a linear image. And for some reason, it's still breaking. I'm not sure why the gamma layer is messing up. What we can just do is just Boolean this. Again, I'm all about the quick fixes. General booleans. Just drag this in, put it in effect mask, put it to multiply by mask, multiply inverted, and then we should be able to just merge on our thing here. All right, there we go. All right, let's put a transform here somewhere. Let's move this a little bit to the side. Let's put a transform. Again, we might still swap out this background because I'm not completely sure if it's the one we're going to use, but if it looks good enough, then we're going to do that. All right, so something like that looks pretty cool. Probably need to color correct that also at some point. Let's just first throw in the depth of field, see what it's going to look like. All right, so we're going to put the first look depth of field connected to this thing. Let's, by the way, have a look at our original, our OG. What would that look like if we were to merge that in? But I think that still has the... All right, so our OG doesn't have the... So I'm not sure what happened there. Something with the gamma, I guess because we played with the contrast. So we can do to get rid of that issue here is that we should grab our beauty here, then do channel booleans, and then let's grab our OG, put it in there, then do to green, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, but the alpha, we're gonna use the alpha from the foreground, so that's the alpha from the OG. So because we played some with the contrast and the gamma, so the alpha there is a little bit messed up. So if we then channel boolean in the thing from the OG there, then we fix that. All right, so this is looking a lot better. All right, let's grab our depth of field. Let's plug it in. Let's have a look again at that. Oh yeah, we should also bring in a white background with that thing. So that should be similar to what we did before. So let's grab a background. Let's make it let's make it quite wide. So 1.2, 1.2, 1.2. All right, let's boolean out. Oh, by the way, we need to make this float 32 because for some reason these always come in as integers, even though you'd always want to use them linearly. So those are those weird things in Fusion that I still don't understand. Right. So let's do channel booleans. We could do, there's multiple ways to bring in the let's just multiply. Right, let's do channel booleans, and let's just multiply it instead. Makes more sense in this case. Channel booleans multiply by mask, and then apply mask inverted. All right, gonna merge that on top of our depth. There we go. So now we see we have a little bit of we probably need to make it even wider if I'm looking at this thing, which seems to be much wider than what we have there. Oh, and alpha of course need to remain 1, so something like this looks probably pretty good. All right, so yeah, this seems to be maybe correct. No, not yet. Needs to be even a little bit wider. All right, now we're getting somewhere. All right, first loop depth of field, depth invert, outer range. And we need to highlight it so we can do the outer range. All right, go to nice frame, something like that. Let's focus on like a nice little piece somewhere. And let's do blur. Hooray, there we go. Some nice blur. In terms of this background, we probably already want to blur that a little bit because it wasn't comping all, like it wasn't looking great here in the comp before we do the depth of field. So it might make sense to just slightly lens blur it already before we do the other stuff. And then here we do the depth of field. All right. It looks quite nice. Probably want to add a little bit of, I want to take a little bit of the blue out of this thing, and I want to maybe add a little bit of blue to the background itself. So in this thing, let's do color correction. Let's desaturate this image a little bit. Oh, and we probably don't want to do it on the lime because the lime already looks pretty good. So this is again where we can use our crypto mats. So that's why these crypto mats are super useful. Let's see, which one do we need again? Probably this one. All right, crypto mats. Plug it in. And let's say add, and then say mats. And with these crypto mats, they don't always render correctly if you render your entire sequence. So you always want to write them out. So always make a, let's go to $job. Always make a mat folder and call it and then make a folder called lime. Go in the folder called lime and then lime.exr. I'm gonna write out lime.exr, so let's disable our other loaders. Again, I wish there was a way to just say right click, render this one, but there is not as far as I know. Just some of those weird things that I don't like inside of Fusion, but let's wait for this to finish. All right, so that's saved out. Again, you could make some underlays for stuff like this if you want. I didn't really do that yet during this part because we have relatively simple comps, but you could do some underlays here to help organize your stuff. You could go underlay, and then it's always a little bit difficult to select only your underlay to rename it, because if I do F2 now to rename this, I cannot really do it like that. So actually it's a little bit weird how that works, because if I do F2 now and call it crypto, it's going to ask me also to rename all the other stuff, which is a little bit annoying. especially if you have a lot of nodes. So it's generally, I guess, better to just make an underlay and then move stuff in. But anyway, all right. So we have our lime. Let's load in our lime mat. So where's our lime? And we want to put that on our color correction. And then we want to say, all right, we want to do everything except for luminance and apply mask inverted. So now we can color correct everything except for our lime. So you can see now we can just color correct the iceberg itself. All right, so make it a little bit more icy. See, it is still doing a little bit because I guess it's not perfect, but something like that. All right, let's have a look here. That's looking maybe a little bit too extreme with the depth of field. You'd probably maybe want to animate the transform that we have. So it also moves up a little bit. So let's do center. Let's just have a look at this thing and say, all right. Just and move it up very slightly. All right, there we go. All right, I guess time to bring in our smoke because this is looking quite. Now we can try it out. Let's do auto proxy and proxy to check out some proxies, turn off high quality, and let's just walk through this. Let's see what it looks like. Let's go from the beginning. All right, there we go. So it actually looks quite nice here. Again, the impact is maybe still a little bit meh, but that's why the smoke might help. And you might actually make more elements depending on how well it works. But let's just grab my smoke render. All right, let's grab the smoke. Here we have our smoke. Let's try to merge that in and see what the smoke by itself does. Let's burn it in. Let's do color correction. Maybe a little bit too much. Let's try without the burn in. Let's desaturate it. It's a little bit on the blue side. Alright, so if I'm looking at this now, actually I think that the impact from the smoke should be a little bit more intense in the beginning, but just wait for this to finish. So for some reason, sometimes it just keeps rendering through it instead of playing normally, even though it should have technically already. Let's just put this to. All right. So in terms of overall impact, it's maybe not as much as I'd like. So this is where maybe stock footage could really help sell this shot. So oftentimes in compositing you use something like stock footage. Of course, any of the stock footage I'm gonna be using, I cannot include those in the downloads because they're gonna be paid. But there's a bunch of websites. You have Action Essentials, for example, but you also have Action VFX. They have a subscription model here, so I can just browse this. Like I have my current account. I have 15 credits, so I can unlock some stuff here. So I can have a look at maybe some stuff here that I think would be nice to add to our shot. So let's try to find some kind of an impact. This one's maybe nice. That one looks quite nice. Let's try that one. Confirm unlock. Gonna download the 4K here. Let me just put it into my folder. So let's just put it into stock footage there. I'm just gonna put it in. And let's just have a download. All right, and let's just try to bring that in. And again, like we've made our own here, but you can just combine different elements in a comp. So here we have this one. It's actually good that we got the 4K one because it's quite small here in the center. And if this was a 2K one, it would have been very tiny. Right, so we can just try to bring that in. Let's just first try to merge it on top, and else we can try to sort of blend it in between. Might be nice to show how that works anyway. Let's just merge this on top. Merge, let's do burn in, or we can use a screen if we want to just screen it. All right, so I'm really happy that I got the 4K one because this, I already need to scale this up. All right. Let's have a look at the timing here. So we need to, if we just have a look at our beauty here. All right, this doesn't seem to update all of a sudden. So the impact is going to be, Fusion is suddenly being a little bit slow here for some reason, because we're just playing back in EXR, which is a little bit weird. All right, but yeah, update. All right. All right, so seems to be that it's gonna be, impact is gonna be over there. I guess what we could do is let's just play with the impact frames here. Or we could maybe do is just retime this a little bit. Reset this loader. Let's just load it in again. All right, there we go. All right, so we have our dust. Let's just maybe retime this. So let's have a look. Let's do time stretcher. Let's put it in here. I'm gonna remove the keys and I'm gonna put this to, let's say on the first impact frame was around, and it's really having a hard time updating here for some reason. Let's turn off all of the proxies. Right, so round frame 1010. So we could put the time stretcher to 1010. It's annoying how it's being. All right, now it's good. I'm just playing with these values here, and now it seems fine. All right, so at 1010 in the beginning, and let's see where we want our so we want our impact also to be at 1010. So that's convenient. Let's animate. And let's do really a sort of a blast. And let's just really increase it like that. All right. So we're gonna blast it out, and then we're gonna slow it out like that. And then that might be a little bit slow. So there's blend and there's flow. Blend will just blend the frames here, which might work fine. You can also use optical flow. Optical flow would sort of compute motion vectors from this animated thing, and you could use flow, and then it's going to sort of try to blend between the two. It's a little bit slower. I'm just going to put it back to blend because I think it's going to be fine for what we have here. And let's just have a look at what it is we're doing here. So we probably don't want to blend this in. Starting at frame, right? Let's blend this in starting from frame there to frame, right? And maybe we actually do want this time stretcher. Maybe we already want it to be a little bit exploded over here, and then just turn it back over there. All right. So we're gonna add some. Right, some Some dust explosion. I'm keep calling it some, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. All right, so we're just putting it over there. Let's color correct it a little bit, because I mean, this doesn't look like something we have right now. Let's make it a little bit blue. Let's gain it up a little bit. All right. All right, so now we've already added to our sort of our snow explosions, maybe a little bit too much, but the problem is right now this is really laid on top of what we have, which probably not really accurate. You can see it really sort of being laid on top. So this is where our world position pass can come in. So let's have a look and let's hope that we actually wrote it out, and we did. So there we go. It's our world position pass. There we go, position pass. And this looks like mumbo jumbo. We're also using it in the next shot, by the way. Already recorded the shot that came after this, so I already know we're using that. But this is super useful. We can use it to sort of generate 3D masks. So what I want to do is I want to channel booleans. And I want to boolean our position channel into, and we can, you know what, we can actually might be better to just do this on top of the OG here, because we're gonna generate a mod from this anyway, so we don't need to do the entire comp. Let's put this in the so we have the OG here, or your beauty render, doesn't necessarily matter. Channel booleans. We're gonna turn the color off. Do nothing. We're going to auxiliary channels, and we're going to go to position. X position, we're going to do foreground red. Y position, foreground green. Z position, foreground blue. All right, there we go. And we're going to do volume mask. And then so with this volume mask, you can mask a volume. So this is going to use this position pass to generate a mask. You can see we can feather it out. You can see we have some nice fog. And you can see we can actually move this in 3D space throughout our thing, which is quite nice. And you can also put this to mask only. And of course, what we can do with this thing is we can actually say, all right, boolean. We can use that as a mask on our smoke. All right, let's do multiply by mask. We should probably crop this first, else it's not going to work, of course. So let's crop. Do 1920 by 1080, and then we can actually mask it. And then, all right. And of course, this will require some sort of extra love and care to have this sort of work properly. But this way you can sort of put it in between. Let's actually transform this correctly. You can sort of put it exactly where you want it, sort of in 3D space. You can use this world position pass to sort of mask out specific elements and put this smoke maybe behind some of our, as you can see, you can put it behind some of our elements. So now this one is now behind some of those pieces. And let's do color correct thing after this whole thing. Something like that. And you could, I should really organize this. I'm just trying to sort of go with the flow here, and then it's gets a little bit messy. So you can do one over there, and then maybe we could do a second one that we're just going to fade in completely on top. All right. You could just merge this completely on top here. All right. And you could say, right, maybe that one, I just want to, so here it starts from behind this stuff, and then we could say, right, blend in the overall one. And we could color correct it a little bit. And then we can play and let's see what it's gonna do. You can see it starts now behind some of those pieces, and then it really blends in here. So you can see you can really add, and this is maybe a little bit too thick of a layer of smoke, but you can really see how this can really help. And maybe in this case I want to actually maybe blur out the mask a little bit, because transition is a little bit harsh. Right, so that works a little bit better. So you can see you can really do this, make this stuff look really nice. And then after that, of course, we could just do an overall color correct on our little shot here. To say, right, maybe do like a little bit of contrast, do like a little bit of gain. Maybe I'm gonna reduce the overall intensity of this smoke, by the way. So I don't want to fade it in completely, maybe just a little bit. And also on this one, I want it to be a little bit less extreme. Something like that, all right. And then the overall color correction, I guess you could do it a little bit like that. All right, let's have a look. Probably desaturate this whole thing. All right, so I'm not liking the contrast here. It's like this on the lime. That's just way too much. Let's just focus on desaturating it. It might be a little bit better. All right. So yeah, pretty much looks quite nice. You can keep adding stock to elements like this, but hopefully this gives you somewhat kind of an idea of of how compositing like this can be useful. Yeah. So with that out of the way, let's, by the way, before we say the whole with that out of the way, let's actually put in our final notes here that we actually needed to export this, because why not? So again, when you maybe want to add some film grain, we're doing the open color IO thing, and then we're writing it out as shot 40. Boom, there you go. With that out of the way, let's head into shot 50. All right, so it's time to do shot 50. I've saved out shot 010 as shot 050. I can close this other one. So I've saved out shot 1 as shot 50. Make sure that we put the path map of $job correctly, because I think for this one we might actually write out some proxies. So this stuff on here on the top, let's just keep it as it is. Always a little bit hard here to organize when I have my UI this big for recording. All right, so let me grab my render. All right. And all right, let's put to 1001 actually, because right. Let's put open color IO. Let's have a look at these frames, and it is actually already looking really good by itself. I'm gonna reduce the final frame here. As you can see, I only rendered a couple of frames because this one was a little bit on the heavier side. So already actually looks pretty good with the actual existing denoise. There's a little bit of weird stuff going on. Maybe for this one we can actually try to just do the rebuild thing. See if we can make it better. So let's just grab our thing here, and then we can just grab the shot 1 thing and just load all of our passes in there. All right. All right, so I actually think this looks better with the open image denoiser. We might also still try need video. This is the NVIDIA. And let's try the Intel one. Right, let's try need video. Reduce noise. Let's have a look at where our actual noise is. All right, so this one is really noisy. Can maybe just try see what each individual denoiser does. Normal. Mojito. All right, so that one is denoises reasonably. Let's try with need video. I think need video might actually do pretty well here, but let's have a look. Give it a region, build profile, apply. All right, that's not. Let's try generic profile. All right. All right, let's go back to doing a build a profile. Then adjust it over here. As you can see in here, you can actually play with it, but I'm not convinced that we're gonna make this any better than this one. All right, let's use Intel Open Image Denoiser here. Diffuse here, because we can also denoise that separately with the appropriate passes, normal, and albedo. Right, that looks good. Transmission here, let's also denoise that separately, also with the Intel denoiser, because that seems to give pretty good results. Albedo, normal, it's pretty good results. All right. Merging it all in. Then we don't need the denoiser at the end. Actually, the straw is a little bit on the light side here, but I think this looks probably a bit cleaner than our. Let's just try to save this out. Let's do $job /beauty /1/beauty.exr. And this is why $job is used for this. So this will now, because we set our $job over here to our actual folder, this will write it out to the correct location. Let's disable the loader there with Control P. Let's just try to write out this denoise sequence here, and we can compare it. All right, let's try that. All right, so that's finished caching out. Let's load it back in. All right. It's loading the actual correct one. Loader, $job, beauty. Right, there we go. Let's see if there's actually a it's slightly cleaner. It's not that much better. But again, you could play around with this to with the denoiser settings and that stuff to make it better. But I'm gonna just grab this one that we made here. All right, some other stuff that we want to do before we do any depth of field or anything. I'm thinking this straw here, we made it black, but I guess we did something with the lights, so it turns out white here. So this is where, for example, the crypto mat can come in. So let's grab our original render, maybe call this F2 original. Let's actually split that out with split XR. Whole bunch of passes. Let's load, let's grab our correct crypto mat, which again, I'm not sure why it always splits it out to multiples, but there you go. All right, so we have our crypto mat, and we can actually make your crypto mat from it. Add, and then put it to mats. Right, so we generate a mat from it. Now with these mats, you generally want to save them out because these crypto mat things generally break if you do them in the final render. So if you have if you have one, it's not too bad, but if you have a bunch of crypto mats in your render, in your comp here, they will generally break and then just lose track of what it is they're doing. So generally like to save them out. So let's go to $job. Let's create a folder called mats. And let's create a folder called straw. Just write this out as a straw.exr. Disable our other saver, else that's also gonna save out. I wish they had a function of to say just render this one, but I don't think they do. So let's just render this. So now this is just gonna render this mat out as an EXR. All right, so that's finished, and then you generally load it back in, and you're gonna put it like that. Right, here we go. So this is why this $job variable is very useful, because you don't have to constantly go to the correct path. You can just use it like that. I'm gonna move this one up a little bit, by the way, because else we're just gonna get confused what we're doing. Right, so this is our beauty. Let's grab this thing. Let's do color correct. And we want to use our straw mat here to. We probably want to organize this a little bit by. Let's say arrange to grid. Put it like this so you can kind of see that this is the loader from that other thing. Right? So we can go to color correct, put it to luminance. We can gain it down. Let's reduce the contrast here and gain it down. Let's do brightness lower. Maybe just the brightness. There's a little bit of too much specular there, so I'm not going to get it completely black, but something like this. Now we already have it as a bit more of a black straw instead of just being white. So that was just a mistake from our render, which you should have fixed, but you can see you can fix that kind of stuff in compositing. So you could also do that if you want to add some additional stuff to your to your individual elements. So let's say I think that these plants in the environment here are maybe a little too distracting. I don't think they are, by the way, but just to sort of show you what you can kind of use this stuff for. So you could just say, all right, I'm gonna copy and paste here this crypto mat thing. I'm gonna go crypto mat here. I'm gonna reset it, and I'm gonna select one of the leaves. Add mat. Right, so you can see we get a mat for our leaves. You can see it goes a little bit through the fluid there. So you could say, right, leaf, and then no, not lad. All right, leaf.xr. Gonna disable again the other savers, and let's render that out. All right, there we go. So yeah, let's load that back in. So $job mats leaf. All right, So this one is of course going to be a little bit trickier to grade because this also includes the, you can probably go to format, let's see. Oh yeah, here into import, make alpha solid, right? But let's put a color correct here. So this is, of course, the problem there is that this is still gonna, because it's slightly going through the fluid, but that still does mean that we can correct it. Let's reset this because that's way too much. Let's put it to luminance. Right. So you can see that way you could, right, something there is not correct. Let's just see is the, let's try to see what's up there by just merging our beauty here with this thing. We can overlay it. It's probably going to be a little bit easier to see what's going on there. I think there's an issue here with the range. Right. Okay, so for some reason it was offset 1 frame. Right, so now that's correct. That's weird because over here that's absolutely fine. So that's strange, by the way. That's, yeah, it's already set to luminance, so it's fine. So yeah, anyway, now what you could do here is you can kind of, you can grade those leaves. Like I could make them, like let's say it was autumn, I could tint them or tint them like that. But let's say I just want to grade them down a little bit and just take the saturation out a little bit. And you can go from this to this, for example. Now I don't particularly think that's better, but just to sort of show you the possibilities there. So you could do the same with each of these individual elements, like the limes or like whatever. But let's do some depth. Right, so we have the depth here. Might also be interesting to show a volume mask, because that might be nice for this shot. I'm not sure if I particularly need it, because I actually already like how it's looking here, but just to prove a point. So the volume mask is essentially, so we can, let's grab our position. So that's where our position paths can be super useful. I didn't cover that in my compositing for 3D artists, because I learned about that node afterwards. But what we want to do is want to channel boolean, put and then put this position here in the foreground. This is our position channel. It might look like gibberish, but this actually stores position information of our entire scene here. So let's put that into the foreground, and then put this boolean here to do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, do nothing, and then I guess add, but it doesn't matter. Enable extra channels, and then go to position, and then X position red foreground, Y position green foreground, Z position blue foreground. And then we can use a so it, because the volume mask node here requires that that it has a position channel. So if you now look over here, we have over here we have a position channel. You can see, go back to color, and volume mask here, you can actually take a position here, and then now if I move, you can see this is actually now stuck to whatever it is, where it is. You can see I can move this. I can make it as a sphere, for example. I can say, all right, I'm gonna make it larger. I'm gonna make it softer here and just put it somewhere in position. And let's say I want to move this up. So you can see I have actually made a mask here. Let's say mask only. You can see I can make I'm making a mask, a 3D mask of our setup here. So just, I mean, pretty cool, right? So you can see, all right, I can mask specific parts in the image based on the depth. So this is where the position is the position paths can be super useful. And of course you can use that mask to grade and stuff like that. Another cool thing which might actually be nice for this setup is volume fog. You can again also requires the position. This adds sort of fog to, so it adds a fog volume to our scene. And I feel that my, okay, position is again offset. For some reason this entire thing that we saved out is offset by 1 frame. So let's put it like that, all right? So we got our fog here. Again, let's put it to fog only, a little bit easier to see. See, we put adaptive sampling. And let's add some noise. Add more detail. Probably Z slices and... Alright, it's a little bit easier to see what we do if we do it over there. Probably want to make it bigger, right? So then when you got your fog there, I guess maybe like a little bit bigger. When you can merge that in. You can merge it in. You can do a little bit of color correction. You could say, right, let's make it a little bit orangey. Like do whatever it is that you like with your shot. And by the way, I'm gonna put some of the color back in the leaves. I actually kind of like that. And all right, so it actually looks, it's quite nice. So that's the thing that you could do. Let's do our regular depth of field again. Like I'm just trying to show some stuff on how to make a pretty image, and you can take it however far you want. Let's do our depth here. We probably want to go into format and then I'm gonna put depth in all of our color channels. Red. Something like that, and then plug it into depth of field, depth invert, auto range. And then I guess we could say, right, wanna start the focus up here somewhere and then animate our focus down towards the glass, or the other way around. Depends on what you want to do, of course. And then maybe you want to grab the optical flares thing that we had. And you could merge that in here. And then do a little bit of color correction. Like with the optical flare here, maybe you want to say, right? Let's add a little bit of contrast. And then we made a pretty decent picture. Again, like, just play around with this however much you like. I'm actually kind of liking the way this is heading. I think I might actually prefer roughly some of the look here to my original. I guess I can grab my original here. So it's somewhat similar. I actually think this in some ways looks nicer than this, but also in other ways this looks nicer. I like the grass here more. I think the scroll here is a little bit more interesting contrast, but it depends pretty much the same shot. And like I mentioned, like I was really running out of time to get all of this finished. So I mean, there's something to say for all of these things, but yeah, let's just do our final things with the the grain and the open color IO. And then you just put it in there, say shot 50. And then you could render it out. Of course, make sure to turn off all of your other render nodes, delete all that stuff. And then you get another shot comp. And now let's go on to our final shot. And then we're pretty much done with our entire project. So for shot 60, let's just save our thing here out in our shot 60 thing. Save it out. Let's change our $job to be shot 60. Yeah, so you could see some stuff change there. Alright, let's bring our render in. Alright, so throw it in here. And this one looks very, very bad. Over here it looks terrible. Over there it looks pretty much terrible all around. Don't worry, my original also looked terrible. And I cleaned it up reasonably well. I'm not sure if we can get it to completely what I want, but let's just see how far we can get. Like ideally you'd render this with more samples, but I just wanted to sort of show you how to roughly clean some stuff like this up. So let's replace all of this in our loaders. Oh, that's why is it not? Let's grab the actual. Right. Put that in. For some reason it's not replacing it. Right, let's just do it manually then. 60 main. Alright, there we go. See, it's quite noisy. There we go. There we go. Alright, there we go. Alright, so that's finished saving. Let's have a look at what it looks like. So, $job. Let's load it in. Let's play. Alright, so this looks a lot better than the original. So you can see this was the render with the NVIDIA denoiser. Pretty terrible. And then this is our own. Actually, here also the reflection is not that bad. I do have to say that I'm not completely happy with how this render turned out. So if it were up to me, normally if I were to do this, like I would probably go through another couple of iterations. But for this tutorial, I'm gonna leave it like this, of course. But let's just keep working on it like this. Just trying to show as many of the steps sort of to go through. And like again, my original render was really pretty not great. I can grab it. So my original was, I think it is this one. I have a dozen versions. So I'm not sure if this is the correct one. Oh no, that's not the one. I'm not sure if this is the one either. Like oh wait, I think it was the previous one. It's just that the range here is a little bit different. All right, let's have a look. It's actually, I actually lied. My original was not that bad. But you can see I do still have some weird stuff going on over there. So this is ours. But yeah, let's try to add the bubbles. See what kind of a difference that actually makes. So it's actually, it's pretty decent, but like normally you'd probably go through a couple versions. I went through like 7 versions of my render. Because there's also still some weird flicker here and there. It's not like there's like a weird thing over there that probably has to do with either something with trace depth or it's a denoising issue. Probably not a denoising issue because this is our denoised in comp. This probably has something to do maybe with the fake caustics or trace depth or any of the sort. But this is type of stuff you would run into and just go back and try to readdress. But that's just what you would do. Because of course I don't have time to show dozen iterations during the course. So we're just gonna roll with this one, and this will be good enough to actually make a pretty good final render. Once we add our particles and all of our rest of our compositing, and you can actually see it sort of actually improve quite a lot. As you can see, it's already a lot better than this way. So let's just keep adding to that. So let's grab our particles. So that's going to be this one and this one, and hopefully they'll look a little bit nice because I also did a couple different variations on those in my original. But let's see how well they hold up here. All right, we need to resize this because remember we rendered those at slightly higher resolution. You can just put a resize them to 1920 1080. You can burn that in a little bit. You can see maybe in this case we actually want to transform it a little bit. So that's also why I did a little bit higher resolution, because we're just mostly using this as a sort of a post thing. So if we just do some additional stuff to this in comp, doesn't necessarily matter too much. Let's do a little bit of color correction. Let's do brightness contrast, by the way. Brightness contrast, you can do pre-divide, post-divide. Then you can actually play with contrast without it breaking the gamma. Right, so as you can see, this actually works pretty well. Like now the sort of the weird wobbly feel that we have there, it works. It's because we added these particles. And you can play a little bit with this stuff. Like you might want to fade it out a little bit at the bottom with a little bit of a mask maybe, but I'm just gonna leave it like this in. So maybe we do that one, and then maybe let's do a second one. And that one we're gonna bump it up. Or let's reduce contrast, bump it up a little bit, and then we're gonna be doing a little bit of a mask and only use this on the top here. Put it in shallow booleans. Say multiply by mask. All right, I guess we. All right. Yeah, we can just leave it in this thing and just multiply it there. Multiply by mask, yeah, something like that. And soften edge. Move it up a little bit. Soften it a little bit more. All right, it works pretty well. Then we also have our bubble swirl. Probably don't need that much here because let's move that over here, do it only in the beginning. So this one is mainly for the beginning swirl, but I didn't render the entire sequence here, of course. So probably not gonna need it that much here, but we can do another resize there. We can burn it in. You can see this also adds some extra particles, as you can see. So that's can be the small droplets. It can look quite nice. You can just fade those out because we might not want those over the entire period. So you can just do it like this. There we go. And watch it over here. Because you know we have some extra small droplets or some spray to really add to this look. So it's looking pretty tasty. We actually might want to do those bubbles after we do all the depth of field stuff. Thinking about it. Let's actually do all of the depth of field stuff first, because of course we don't want these spray particles to be completely blurred. Let's grab our depth. So we actually need to grab our original render here. Again, split it out. Split the XR. Depth. And then Frisch Luft depth of field. Let's have a look at our depth here. Right, we really need to change the brightness and contrast on that thing. Oh, and we probably need to go to format again. Put depth in all of the color channels. There we go, and then we can. Right, there we go. Something along those lines, probably. Let's plug that in. Depth invert, auto range. Have a look at it. Focus on our glass and let's increase the radius. And add some nice depth of field. Maybe not too much. We still need to add some stuff to our background there. So we have our background in here. Where do we grab it from? Right, can probably grab this from our shot 2, right? Where we actually added the background. So let's open up shot 2 and let's grab the background that we did. So there was, no, not that one. Where do we load the image? All right, over here. So let's grab that stuff. And then we actually need to put it in somewhere here. She said. Want to load that in the background. Merge. So that's going to be the background. I'm going to merge that on top. All right, so some stuff there doesn't seem to like that. Let's maybe instead what we can actually do is we can just do channel booleans on that thing, effect mask, and then multiply by mask, apply mask inverted. So then we get just the sky where all of the other stuff is, and then we can merge it on top, and then you can see we got it in the background there. So it's looking pretty nice. Right, so now you can see we have a nice little thing going there. Probably with this depth here, I probably want to change this stuff in the back there. So this time it doesn't have alpha, so we probably want to add some, make that a little bit white, because that's really messing up the blurring. So I guess what we could just do is grab this beauty thing that we have there. Let's do background. So let's have a look here. Let's grab the background. Let's make it float 32. Let's color pick some color here, and or basically already white. I guess we could make it slightly more white than white, right? And then we want to multiply, or we want to not merge, we want to boolean, channel booleans. We want to put the mask in that thing. So that's the beauty here. And we want to multiply by mask, apply mask inverted. So we just get the white stuff there. We can merge that on top. Over here. Oh, yeah, we need to actually merge the channel boolean there. All right. Probably want to, so you can see there's some issue there with the edges. You can probably just put an erode dilate here. Put it to Gaussian. So this will erode and dilate out the image. can probably just dilate it out slightly. And then we get some weird stuff there. Probably our depth of field is slightly too high anyway. And you could add a little bit of erode dilate. This is something I generally will do. Also do Gaussian and just feather out the edges slightly. All right. Right, yeah, we want to do the depth of field before we do the bubbles, which I mentioned before and then I completely didn't do. So let's actually do that. Let's move some stuff here. Do as I say, don't say as I was. What's the saying again? All right. Put that one in, and then grab our thingy and try to be more organized than I am. All right. Then we're doing depth of field here. Then we need to merge in our cloud before we do depth of field. All right. So we need to grab that one, put it over here. Make sure that we do everything in the correct order. Right, for some reason. All right, you know what? Let's do a new depth of field here. All right, let's plug that in. Depth invert, outer range, increase that blur. Let's focus. There we go. Let's add the bubbles. More bubbles. Looking pretty fly. All right. Let's add some more stuff. I guess we can. Let's add some of those particles that we had also in shot 1. I know that I'm going a little bit fast with all this stuff, but it's a lot of shots to go through, and it's not mainly a compositing course, but I do want to walk you through the entire process here. Like I mentioned, if you want to see more in-depth stuff with this compositing, just watch my compositing for 3D artist. All right, so adding some nice particles there. Let's add a little bit of color there to those things. Looking tasty. All right, let's do the flares, and then I think a little bit of grading, and then we're pretty much done. Let's do merge. Let's merge the flares in, and maybe with these flares we want to get a little bit funky. Maybe we want to do a couple of flares. Let's do one main flare. Let's make it a little bit yellowy, something like that, and we can add a little bit of contrast there. Maybe something like that. And then we maybe want to do a second one where we don't do the sun. We maybe just do some other stuff. No, not anamorphic. Let's try. Let's make the size a little bit smaller. Something like that, maybe. Ghosts, spots, something like that. Just some sort of lens aberrations. See, that's some nice stuff there. Then maybe some other stuff that we didn't do the other shots, but might be nice. Add a little bit of chromatic aberration. So you put a transform, put the settings, you just put it to red, and then you just slightly offset the red channel. very slightly. Right? Call this F2 red. And then do another transform. Just do it on the blue or the green or the whatever. Just the other channel that you didn't do yet. And maybe the other side, right? Green. Call it green. So we add a little bit of chromatic aberration there. Do a bit of color correction. We're going super speed compositing here. Mega speed. Your clients will be so happy. Right. Do a little bit of that. Beautiful. All right. Let's remove all of the other stuff that we did here. And now let's say just want to add our grain. All right. Maybe too much. I think I might have overdone the grain on a lot of the other ones, but I mean, make it however much you want. All right. Let's just have a look at what these couple frames look like. Let me just spray this. By the way, I'm working at full size here, so it's set to high quality. If you want to work faster, sure to enable auto proxy and proxy. All right. I mean, this is pretty much what I had, right? Is it? I mean, it's not exactly the same shot, but we've pretty much recreated. Actually, this looks nicer, the new one. It's just not the entire shot, but see, we pretty much recreated our entire thing. Let's turn on proxy so we can play it back a little bit faster. All right, so pretty much, for some reason, it keeps clearing my cache, but pretty much this is our entire shot. Let me just write it out maybe as an MOV here, so you can actually see what's going on. Turn that off. Just write it out. Right. Oh, let me just turn it on. All right. Just save it out. All right. There we go. So yeah, that's it. Of course, a lot of stuff that could still be improved in compositing and render with more time and effort. But again, with all of these things, like I mentioned throughout the entire project, all of this stuff just takes time. Normally, if you're doing all this stuff with a client project, you're going to go through dozens and dozens and dozens of versions, and not just the one that we're doing here. But I hope that this gave you a sort of a good idea on how to put a project like this together in Houdini with Karma, like doing all of the simulations, starting from scratch, building up the entire thing. Right, so that basically is the entire project. Well, they're still, of course, replacing the MOVs in Premiere with the ones that we have from the animatic now. Maybe do some sound designs, maybe do some color grading, but that's basically it. So yeah, over these past 21 hours, we basically went from storyboard all the way to composited final shot. So I really hope that you learned a lot. I had a lot of fun making this. It was quite intense because it's a lot of material, but I'm really happy how it turned out. So I really hope that you learned a lot. If you have any questions, you can send me a message on social media in these social media handles. Also make sure to follow me on any of those if you want to stay up to date with any other tutorials that I might make. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this course. I really hope that you learned a lot, and hopefully I'll see you in another one. Peace.